Good morning, Samir. Lovely to see you here this morning. And thanks for joining this discussion. Uh,
Thank you, Mother. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, you are running the digital and transformation PMO at Hero FinCorp, and like most organizations, this is one of the most happening areas in the organizations currently, as most organizations are uh, have already started or are in the process of completing their digital transformation. As a head of the PMO for this function, can you share some examples of initiatives or collaborations that you have successfully enhanced market presence? Because I'm sure one of the factors which you are managing as part of the PMO is to ensure that the market presence is more digitalized and you enhance the customer journey of your customers using digital technologies. How is this happening at Hero FinCorp?
Absolutely right, Mridul. So, one of the very key objectives always remain to scale the business, right? So, whatever digital transformations you are doing, so at the end of the day, it will either talk to customer satisfaction, it will talk to efficiencies of the processes, but at the end of the day, it will boil down to either the top line or the bottom line. So, that way, if I talk about my particular trajectory, so not only Hero Finco, but otherwise also. So there are various projects. So if I talk about end-to-end digitalization of a lending journey, right? So wherein you a traditional lending product where we used to do a heavy paper file sourcing, physical movement on the ground to get a login application form, and then n number of uh, uh, iterations that keeps on going into this is not right, this is right, and all that stuff. So from that age, bringing into a end-to-end journey where people are now just reaching a decision of their application by just filling in 3 to 4 fields. So that is the kind of the evolution I have seen into this space, and that is the kind of the projects that I today cherish. When I look back and see the trajectory that the products have came through in the digital landscape. And similarly, on the customer satisfaction side and the customer experience side, so earlier the customer was having that all the agitations, has to go through all those agitations wherein he has to fill in the forms manually, he has to pull down so many papers, he has to kind of interact multiple times, do follow-ups, check out what the status is. And today the customer experience has kind of become completely frictionless. It is completely seamless, and thanks to the technology here, because by just the help of a single click, there are a lot of many functions happening, and because there are multiple APIs that are firing in the back, and helping out the customer to ease his life. And that is what we have seen here also, and lending use case in particularly. So now you need not, if you, as long as you know your mobile number, you know your PAN number, that is good enough. So
Okay,
and
that's
these two
good enough.
things, if you have handy, then rest of the things will be taken care of by technology. And that's the kind of experience uh, today the industry has created for the customer.
Right, right. No, no, absolutely right. And we talked about the customer. I think there is another very important angle which defines how successful the transformation is happening is the process transformation. And because
Yes.
the process has probably the most direct impact on the customer experience when you're delivering it. So, what digital tools or digital processes are or initiatives you are taking to digitize the whole process, which includes not just customer-facing processes, but also internal processes at Hero FinCorp?
Absolutely. So, as you rightly touched upon, so the process piece. So, in particular, if we talk about, so all those inefficiencies has to go out of the value chain, right? So all those areas where there was a dip, where there was not the optimum scale was coming out as an output. So that is where we have to kind of have to create that, and this has been done very beautifully with a lot of partnerships with the fintechs, right? And today a typical digital journey somewhere sees close to like 20 to 30 odd or the interventions that are working at the back end. These are nothing. These are our various fintech solutions that keep on deploying. If I put it into perspective, so the moment you enter or the moment you start filling a loan application, the moment you enter your first mobile number or a PAN number, there are solutions working in the back end, which kind of auto populate the rest of the details for you. So basis the mobile number, basis the PAN number, whatever data is available on the authentic and ethical layer, basis your consent. So once the consent layer
Right,
is
right,
fulfilled,
of
and
course.
then basis the legitimate availability of the data on the truth, source of truth, that is immediately shown back to the customer. So that takes away a lot of process inefficiency while you need not input anything. So as the moment you take away user input fields, it becomes more kind of objective. It is no more subjective interventions that you need to take. There is no assumptions that user has to make. It is very black and white. He has just to check whether this is right, wrong. So it becomes very objective kind of a layout, and it eases the thing out. And my process efficiency, if I talk about, so anything that was typically taking 2 days to get onboarded at a loan application or a login stage, if we talk about, because it used to involve, going out, talking to the channel, getting the file in and everything placed. Today, you can do it. Paperless is one thing, contactless is another thing, and you can do it from any part of the world. So as long as your customer is available, he is ready to give you a moment. So he can be assisted at any point in time, and he can do it himself also. And similarly, if you go ahead, so there are various other compartments also. So we have underwriting, we have operations. So there also
Right,
we have seen
right,
a lot of interventions on the digital side, wherein your risk assessment models, your business rule engines have kind of played their role. So it's an iterative journey. The things are evolving. There is a everyday new learning, and basis the data and basis the previous learning, there is a iterations happening on these models, and it has led to a stage wherein up to a certain threshold you can underwrite the case. I mean, completely automatically. So there is no human intervention required there.
right, right.
So that is some of the examples I can think of, and that are purely from a process perspective.
Right. No, no, that's really wonderful. And that brings me to the next part. As a head of the PMO, how do you find that balance between a lot of innovation, lot of new things coming, and the practical execution? There may be a great solution, but it's not very practical to execute it in the short time or whatever. So how do you take that decision and find that balance?
Yeah, so how shall I take it? So any kind of a transformational project has to have problem solving mindset, right? Because when you are taking up of any kind of a transformational project, uh, there are lot many elements that are involved, and there will be various stakeholders that will be involved. There will be various departments who will be involved. So as you rightly touched upon, the practicality of the entire setup has to come out very clear. And for that, you have to have that kind of, breakdown approach. You have to have that kind of, iterative approach to the entire rollout or to the entire problem, so that one, we have small wins as we move ahead in the journey. Second, you can bring along all those people who are initially, resistant to the change, because they also need to see some kind of a data, some kind of a proof. While it looks very exciting to see things in theory, but till the time no one sees the results out in, and especially for them, in your
Right.
it AI is working for everyone, but whether it will work for you or not in your kind of a problem statement is something, until unless you don't put it into the right packaging, it will not solve for you. So that way, my approach has always been an empathy and evidence driven. So as long as we are able to address the apprehensions of the stakeholders, we are there to support them throughout this transition. Let's call that, because there will be new ways of doing that same old work which they were doing. There were new thought process, that there will be change of mind also. It will not. It's just not that from physical to digital. It is not just changing of the tools. You are also changing your mindset, like how you need to look at this particular application now. There are some other intelligence that now you have to kind of bring in versus what you were doing as a intelligent salesperson or an underwriter when the things were coming to you physically.
Oh,
So,
great. I just loved that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on
so,
evidence and
so,
empathy? I
yeah,
loved
so,
that point.
so the your in as you say now, that there is an artificial intelligence and there is a human intelligence. So AI and HI. So if you talk about HI, so in your previous era, the HI was more of, if you remember, we used to track the first time right, who has logged in the very clean file, there is an error-free file and all that stuff. And today, probably, logging in a file is no more a metric. It's on a conveyor belt now. So it is just
Right.
happening left, right, center. So what is the intelligence you have to bring in is you have to look at the patterns. You have to identify the trends. You have to look at the funnel and see, is there any kind of a red flag?
Yeah.
What might be, there is a, what you call that, there is used to be a term, yeah, velocity. Is there a spike in velocity from a particular pin code? Is all of a sudden there is a change in login patterns? So as a leader into your specific units, these are the intelligence now that you need to track. You are no more bothered with the kind of the quality of the file that will come in. You are more bothered with the kind of this, the fraud elements it might be having, the kind of the, notorious elements who are playing around with the system, or there
Right.
are some people who are trying to kind of, ride on the loopholes of the system. So you have to also become the kind of, your eyes and ears out on the ground. So, because
Right.
the people who have designed in Century, that the transformational projects that has been conceived in the head office, at the end of the day, all are kind of relying on the eyes and ear who, but these particular departments will be lending to them. So
Correct.
that is how, and that was, but in particularly what I was referring to when I talked about the change in intelligence. And yes, so that brings us to another factor also, like the right kind of manpower at the right place.
Right.
That is also thing. But taking going back to your initial question, so I think so the pointed answer to that will be backing it up with the evidence, and taking it into iterative approach is something that will, because at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, my personal belief is it is being done to solutionize something, until, because otherwise there was no
That is
point of
very
doing that kind of a project and of that scale. So if you are solutionizing something, so which means there was a problem also. And if you can kind of connect these dots,
right.
then your actual innovation and practicality can be answered to each and every one, from the bottom of the pyramid to the top of the pyramid in the execution.
Right. That's right. That's very, very true. You mentioned something about threat. So, what kind of threat detection and anomaly behavior detection? There are a lot of behavior anomalies that can be detected using digital technologies today. So, are you using some of these technology or plan to use to see, like, for example, you mentioned that suddenly there is a spike in application for a particular PIN code, or certain type of loans getting prioritized more. So, are you having those anomaly checks?
Yeah, definitely. So without going into the exact pieces, but at a high level, if I talk about, so there are multiple checks that are running. And when you talk about from a broad angle, so one is the pattern recognition, second is the velocity checks, third can be your the kind of the intelligence that you need to build on the OTP layers and everywhere.
Right, right,
Right?
right.
And there are technologies like SIM binding. There are technologies like device bindings, device and SIM binding. So, and I can keep
Yeah,
naming
I mean, that's right.
naming them. So yes, so there is a dedicated technology effort that is being taken to identify the fraud patterns, and at the same time we are kind of bringing in that intelligence back into the underwriting models.
Correct.
right? So my underwriting models are getting, you know,
So it's like an iterative,
yes, yeah, yeah,
rotational learning kind of a mechanism.
absolutely, absolutely.
Right, right. And, what I'm very curious because Hero FinCorp is established name has been there for such a long time. Whereas you have, fintechs, which are, digital first kind of technology, right? They started like that. Whereas probably you are transforming. And why only FinCorp? There are many, many such large Indian financial corporations who are transforming. Uh, do you think it becomes more challenging to compete with digital first kind of fintechs, or you think no, because you have much more learning, you can better adapt to digital technologies?
See, if you are putting them as a competition, then also I will take them as a very healthy competition and a space that has have been there. But at the end of the day, if today you will look around in the ecosystem, especially if you talk about the BFSI, so more or less we are riding on each other, so both the sets that you talked about, so one on the one side you have a diversified NBFC or a traditional NBFC, well grown NBFC, and on the other hand there is a fintech who is very sharp on a particular solutioning. He is very technology driven and very fast growing for that particular piece. So now, both these have their own set of strengths. For example, a traditional NBFC will have access to that kind of a capital and have access to the capital markets to bring in the balance sheet strength. And at the same time, while we can also build a kind of a technology solution, but the speed and the kind of the the variety the fintech can bring into that solution, we will not be able to match that at that scale and power. So that is where we both are amalgamating. And today, if you look around, so whether these are low code platforms, whether these are your the onboarding suits, KYC suits, and at the same time you have a lot of solutions on the e-mandate sides. You have Aadhaar verification suits. So there are multiple solutions
Right.
which are being as it is adopted by the banking and the non-banking world, right? And that keeps everyone on their specialization, and at the same time creating a mutually beneficial uh, partnership. And if you look around, even the regulator is all out into this kind of a setup. You have an RBIH today. So RBIH is kind of uh, uh, encouraging all these kind of innovation. They are providing you all kind of sandboxes to you to invent, solutionize for the problem. And these are the places where you need to be,
Right.
and that will complement each other. But yeah, at the end of the day, both these sets have their own unique strengths and limitations. As long as we are aware of that, and as long as we can uh, shake hands to kind of fill up for each other. So I mean that's a beautiful place to be.
Right, right, right. That brings me to the last question. I mean, looking ahead, what are your top priorities for enhancing customer experience through this digital transformation project?
So as we all know, so the today the space we are in, and the kind of the unfortunately the kind of the frauds that has come up, the kind of the negative side of this digitalization we all have seen, and we all are aware also today. So, and with the digital protection, data protection bill coming out, all those things. So my priority for or the future of CX for me will be something wherein you can balance the hyper personalization with privacy. So that will be the major challenge. So because bringing a customer experience is not a challenge today. Also, you can do that. There are a lot of available. But as a person who is sitting behind this technology, you will have to have that kind of understanding, visibility, and what I can call the 360-degree approach to the entire ecosystem, wherein you are checking in. For example, AI. There is no harm in adopting the AI, but the point is, are you adopting the ethical AI?
Right.
So keeping ethical AI into picture, you are nudging the users at different spaces. You are using a lot of martech platforms. You are creating all those automated journeys. But are you abiding to all kind of dry regulations? Are you abiding all kind of meta rules and regulations, and keeping the customer at the forefront? Because at the end of the day, customer experience will be made up of all these small things.
So
So
absolutely.
so in one line, if you ask me, so it's because hyper personalization is required. Because if I'm talking to Mridul and Samir in the same way I talk to someone else, so that is not gonna create that kind of connect, because that stage is already over. So today we have been brought into that kind of a space where we are being treated very hyper personalized, right? So
Right.
each and every notification that is landing on your device knows you, and you feel connected with that. Yeah, he's talking to me, you know so you can't take out hyper personalization, that is taken. But the kind of the elements that were available for you to do the hyper personalization, that are being regularized, sanitized, and being compartmentalized. So you have to have that visibility. You have to strike that balance, so that it can be uh, frictionless, seamless, agile uh, systems that can give a customer experience while respecting the privacy.
Lovely. I think you said, I mean, rather concluded really well, because uh, there's a very thin line between privacy and personalization, and the more hyper personalization, which is probably the need of the hour, uh, how you have to handle ethical elements of the AI to ensure that the privacy remains and you are compliant, because DPDP Act is now there. And how do you ensure that you're compliant if you're looking at Indian market? Lovely speaking to you this morning. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to more such top discussions, or maybe one of those specific topics. I liked some of the very important things you talked about: evidence and empathy. You talked about ethical AI, and I think these are the conversations which we should be having more of. Which unfortunately, a lot of conversations only around Gen AI, whereas we forget about things like algorithmic bias. Forget things about ethical AI stuff. We forget things about small language models. And there's so much things happening around this area that is very exciting. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Rudra. Lovely talking to you, and I really love speaking and interacting on this topic. So nothing better than these platforms to take these learnings out in the market. And as you rightly mentioned, Gen AI is the buzzword, but I mean, you need to look at the infrastructure cost. You need to look at the large language models that are working behind that, and there is a lot of contextualization that this technology still requires. So on this note, I think so. Uh, I mean, lovely catching up this morning and taking this conversation.